Welcome back, guys, to Tranceportal in the studio with me, EverLight. So today I've got a really exciting episode because no matter if you're a beginner or if you're an advanced producer, you are probably going to find an awful lot of use for this little trick which I have discovered. Today we're going to be talking about Ableton Live's MIDI effects, but specifically we're going to be talking about how you can use those MIDI effects to generate chord progressions without knowing a single thing about music theory. Really cool bit of kit that I've got to show you today. So let's get stuck straight into it. Today you do not get to see my ugly mug, unfortunately. You get to look at my beautiful Mini Nova synthesizer here, which we are going to be using as a MIDI device. It's literally just sending notes to Ableton. The reason we're using this today is because I want to show you just how simple it is to generate great chord progressions and great sounding melodies using the sequence that I am going to show you now. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get yourself 2 MIDI channels. You need to set one of them up to have an instrument on. In this case, I've used Serum with a nice little patch. And then what you need to do is you need to have another empty MIDI track. You then need to make sure that the routing for these channels is set up correctly. If you don't already see this, you need to click this down in the corner so that you can enable it. This is going to allow you to set up your MIDI correctly. First of all, what you need to do is on the first channel with no instrument on, you need to set it to in from all ins. And what this will do is it will listen and it will input MIDI to that channel regardless of if it is armed. That's important. The next step that you want to do is you want to, on your instrument track, you want to make sure that it's accepting MIDI from this channel. So you do that and then you arm it. And that's important. Now what happens is when I press a key on the keyboard, the MIDI is routed through this channel into this channel. You see the MIDI coming in and then you can see the sound coming out. Now the reason why we set this up is because we want to capture the notes that we generate. And we can do that by recording this channel, which I'll show you in just a moment. So now that we've got our routing for the MIDIs set up correctly, it's just a case of setting up our MIDI effects. The first one that we're going to want to use is chord. I have actually made a simple preset here, which I've called Simple Minor. I'll drag and drop that onto the channel. And all you need to do if you don't have this is just drag one on and set one of the notes to +7 semitones and one of the notes to +3 semitones. Now what will happen is whenever I hit a key on the keyboard, it will add 2 additional notes at that spacing on the keyboard, which should generate a minor key. If I press a bunch of random notes, it doesn't sound too musical, it just kind of sounds a bit odd. So now what you want to do is to get those notes snapped within a scale. And that's really easy to do. You just get Ableton's scale MIDI effect and then drag and drop it on there. What you can do is generally minor is a good place to start. So we can drag and drop C minor on here and it will load. Now what this does is it filters out any notes that come into it to make sure that they're snaps to the closest note that's in that scale. You can actually change the bass or the root note of your track by modifying this here. We're going to set this to G. So now whenever I press a key on my keyboard, the notes are being added onto it to generate a chord and then filtered to be snapped to the key of G minor. And just by pressing a bunch of notes on there, we can now generate some kind of cool stabs, some cool sequences. We can change the sound, we can add pads on there instead, generate more evolving sequences. But if you wanted to generate something like a lead, if you want to have more fun with it, that's also easy to do by adding an arpeggiator. So what we do here is we just take the arpeggiator, we drag and drop it on here, we set the rate to 16ths, and then we turn up the gate a little bit just so the notes aren't cut off. So now whenever I hold a note, it's adding on 2 notes in the key of a minor key, then it's filtering those notes to the key of G minor, and then it's arpeggiating them, so it'll sound like this. Now what's really fun is when you start pressing multiple keys at once.
And you can have all sorts of fun jamming out with that, pressing different keys and finding some cool combinations and cool chord progressions that you might want to use. But if you want to actually have those notes available to you inside of Ableton, you will need to record them. And that's why we set up our routing the way that we did earlier. Because now all that we need to do is either record within a clip or switch to arrangement view. I'll just delete what I made earlier. And then what you do is you just arm the channel, make sure the channel is armed. We're going to have a metronome turned on here, and then you hit record. And now that we've done that, we now have all the notes that have been generated by Ableton for us inside of a clip. You can now use that clip to copy and paste to move the sequence around and to maybe convert them into chords, that sort of thing, so that you can now use them inside of your project as a potential new track. Guys, I hope that's been really useful, really exciting for me personally. I'm now going to go and experiment more with this and play around with it. Thank you once again for watching Tranceportal in the studio with. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The link is on screen now and in the description, and I'll see you all again very soon.